Visit geoal.com and learn how GeoAL implements next-generation intelligence advancement technologies to aid the Department of Defense with precision and expertise analysis. GeoAL.
The new era of intelligence.
Welcome to the Veteran Business Collective podcast.
All right.
Did you read that book?
No, I haven't.
No, it's not that good.
He wrote a book called Green Lights?
Oh, so he's an author now? Okay.
He's journaled his whole life, I guess.
Okay.
And then was just bored, so he wrote a book about lessons learned. And he called it Green Lights.
Fair enough. I'm always kind of weary about things like that, which it's because there's a person who's exceptionally good at something, and naturally you give them a benefit of the doubt that because of that maybe they're exceptionally introspective or thoughtful or good at something else. And sometimes that's just not the case.
It's the authority fallacy. Mm-hmm. We do it all the time, mm-hmm. right? If someone's a medical doctor or a professor, you automatically ascribe a level of authority on various other subjects that they have absolutely no mm-hmm. domain expertise in, mm-hmm. just because they're really good at that one thing. And you associate that, like you said, with some sort of maybe innate knowledge that you don't have, which just isn't the case. So you see all these talking heads on TV all the time, mm-hmm. retired colonel analyzing whatever. Like, he didn't even do that in the military, you know? Mm-hmm. Now he's the expert on all this stuff, but the authority fallacy. But we're already live, so this is cool. We should go ahead and do intros.
Nice.
Let's do intros.
Chase Roth here, and as always, Avery Washington.
Yes.
Joined today by Schuyler Witt with Crawlspace Ninjas.
Yep, and Cedar Ridge Management.
Cedar Ridge Management, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. We've kind of known each other on the peripheries for, at least a year now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I knew of you, I guess, 6 years ago.
Well, we had some encounters through the Raider community, mm-hmm. I think, but I guess I was more referring to our recent encounters through business, and you starting up Crawlspace Ninjas here, mm-hmm. and your interactions with the Veteran Business Collective and that sort of thing. But yeah, we do have some history that goes back a little further than that.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Have you met previously?
We have
worked together?
Actually. The first time we met, it was on a dive site. I had just come off my last deployment, and so I was a free fall JM and a combatant dive supervisor, and I needed to get current again. So I hopped on I don't know if it was a dive or dive soup course you were doing, but I hopped on one of their training events so I could get current again as a dive soup to do all of the post-deployment training events for everyone else to get current when they redeployed, essentially. Yeah.
It was cold.
It was slightly below average.
Then.
Somebody forgot a wetsuit.
Wasn't this guy, was it?
Was it me?
Did you forget a wetsuit?
Dude, I felt bad for you.
I don't know. I have
he swam anyway, didn't he?
I have more than one cool diving story. That's why I can't remember. It's quite possible. But just to go down a rabbit hole real quick. So we had one. I was trying to put together a dive team. MARSOC had just put together what makes a jump team, what makes a dive team, their criteria of it. And I was in the only team in third that had enough people to actually pull it off. So I'd planned all these training events. This was January 5th or 6th. So we go out there, and the master diver's like, hey, if the water is 49 degrees, we can't do the dive because we don't have this piece that goes into the rig to keep it from freezing over. They go out, do the temperature, it's 51 degrees. I'm like, oh my God. Why? Right? So we go out there, it's supposed to be 500-meter dive, really quick. An hour later, we finish for a 15-minute dive. I get up, I stand up, and there's water in my dry suit from the knee down. So everybody's like, get him out the dry suit, because you have to sit there for 10 minutes of clean time. So we don't really think anything of it. By the end of this 10 minutes, I'm sitting on the ground just shaking, looking crazy. And they're like, get him in the car, turn on the heat. So I'm sitting in this car by myself, just shaking up and down. It's like, looks like a low rider, just nuts. So I think I have a couple of those experiences where I just can't separate one from the other. Mm-hmm. But I probably forgot my wetsuit.
All your hypothermic experiences just combined together into one long, miserable memory.
Absolutely. Back to you, though.
So, Schuyler, tell us about yourself, man. I know, are you still in now? Are you out?
No, I got out 1 October last year.
Okay, so not quite a year out. How many years did you end up doing altogether?
11.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your military time.
5 years as an infantry officer with 2-6, and then 5 years as a team commander with MARSOC. Well, training time and then team commander.
Okay, so five total years MARSOC, and then decided you're going to move on, do something different? Well,
yeah, I mean, the military was always the plan until it wasn't a plan.
Okay.
I knew a decision point was getting married and reevaluating my life. So got married right before I went to ITC. Yeah, and then just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Things had changed a lot, and I didn't need to do it anymore. So just did some soul searching and put some business plans together and decided to jump out and disconnect my RSL and go for a ride. You want me to keep going, or?
Yeah, man. We just hear the story. Like, what was that like? 11 years because I did 13 years, and then just same thing, just jump cold, no support, no lifeline, nothing, straight into the business world. Kind of like you're doing. What was that like for you?
When you're going real fast, you're not thinking, or not feeling, I should say. Just got out and started executing.
Okay.
Never had the, oh my God, what's going to happen with life now that I'm out? I'd say for anybody that's in the military thinking of getting out, if you just take what you're taught, the Marine Corps planning process, the decision-making models that you have, or even just the five paragraph order in MET-TC, and you think about how can I apply that to business or to the rest of my life. It's really all you have to do. For Crawlspace Ninja, we literally went through MDMP. We framed the problem. We came up with what needed to happen. We put together an execution checklist, and we just executed the events in order that they had to happen.
Now, did you do that? Is that how you plan out your jobs for Crawlspace Ninja, or is that how you decided to get into Crawlspace Ninja?
Yeah, that's how I decided. So backing up, I came up with evaluation criteria for franchising.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I used that to pick my franchise. I dove in pretty seriously to 7 different franchises, looked at their FDD and looked at all their financials, evaluated all of that with who the franchisor was against my evaluation criteria, and then picked one.
Okay. What were some of the ones, you don't have to name the names, but were they all in the same kind of industry? The ones that didn't make the cut, what ended up?
I was industry agnostic.
Okay.
I just cared about a service-based business that was leading people to serve people.
Okay, so it was all service-based. You weren't looking at restaurants or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so restaurants is very capital-intensive with actually very low margins. So I wanted a 2-to-1 initial investment to gross sales ratio. And yeah, the restaurant industry is very, very tough.
Yeah.
They got small margins and a lot of capital at risk. So
you started this while you were on active duty, right? So you're sitting there and you're like, all right, I think I want to go into business. How did you even make that decision that you wanted to go into business, vice leave the military and have a job? I
was lucky enough to watch or to listen or read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2006. I saw my mother and her brothers inherit a lot of money and then lose it all because they didn't know how to handle money.
Yep.
And seeing that, and then seeing the decisions they made with comparing it to what I read in Rich Dad Poor Dad, really helped me figure out what I wanted to do in life.
What were some of those things that influenced you in that book, that influenced your thought process towards business ownership?
Trading time for money versus building an asset. I'd much rather work once and get paid for the rest of my life than continue to go to work and get paid only for the time I put in. My dad was a great cabinet maker, self-employed, didn't have anything to show for it at the end because he wasn't getting paid if he wasn't working, so he wasn't building a business. My mom was a teacher. And yeah, just comparing that with, Rich Dad talking about build assets first. You can have nice things if you buy things to pay for them. He talked a lot about, residual income. So I started investing in real estate pretty early on, bought my first rental in 2010. That was going to be my retirement plan. So my first course of action when I joined was 20 years in the military, 10 properties at the end, and then retire. Couldn't live off of my portfolio at the end of 10 years and didn't want to because I want to keep reinvesting stuff. So had to come up with a new cash flow plan, right? Because Uncle Sam wasn't going to give it to me anymore. So I put together a real estate acquisitions business model. Thought about going out and bringing in a lot of outside capital and kind of doing a single family home acquisition thing on steroids. But I still had another deployment. I still had some things that I had to go to and couldn't kind of do it concurrently. It was also very time intensive. My wife is really good at running things, but not quite as good at creating them. So I couldn't be half involved and let her run with it. I could be holistically involved and we could get it to a place and she'd make everything better and take it farther, but there's like that bridge that I needed to be there for. And franchising provided that bridge.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
what was it about Crawlspace Ninjas that made you say, yeah, let's do it?
So my financial metrics, I wanted to be able to do at least $1 million in revenue by the end of my second year. I needed a 2-to-1 initial investment to gross revenue thing my first year. I had 5 financial metrics, and then the intangible was what's the character of the franchisor. I wanted to learn about business with somebody that was a man of character, that was humble, that was willing to walk with me. And Michael Church, the president of Crawlspace Ninja, just a very godly man that is all of these things. He's probably 17 years ahead of me in his entrepreneurial journey.
Okay.
Obviously, he has a lot of great things going for him. The coolest thing is that he knows he doesn't have everything figured out, and he shares all of his lessons learned with us. So those things coupled with the financial metrics, it was really a no-brainer. We actually signed the FDD, the financial disclosure agreement, while on my way to my last deployment.
Okay, cool.
Over some Wi-Fi.
That's pretty cool. That you leaned into it like that and got out ahead of it. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you picked a pretty great company to partner with.
Oh, yeah. This is all my team, and this is all Michael Church. We did over $1 million in our first 12 months.
Wow.
That's excellent.
Yeah. 11 months and like 7 days, we hit $1 million.
How big of an area do you cover?
We cover regularly an hour outside of Wilmington.
Okay.
But we'll go farther out if somebody really needs it, and we'll just charge them a little bit more and put our guys up in a hotel or an Airbnb to do the job.
Now, for people who don't know what a Crawlspace Ninja is, maybe a little clarification. Like, I grew up in Wisconsin, and if I had not lived out here for the last 20 years, I would not even know what a Crawlspace is because we have basements. So what's a Crawlspace Ninja?
A third-degree certified mold killer.
Nice.
So crawl spaces it's a foundation type. It's a raised house between 18 inches and 5 feet. The way homes have been built and are continued to be built for the homeowner's deficit is they put a brick skirt around this house that they raise on stilts or piers, and they put vents in the foundation every 6 feet, thinking that airflow is going to keep mold away. Mold needs 3 things to grow. It needs high humidity, it needs food, so wood, the thing your foundation's made from, and then oxygen. So if those 3 things exist, you got mold growth. And from May to September in Wilmington, just outside the humidity, as you guys know, is between 75 and 95% all the time. So vents are really bad for houses on crawl spaces, but they're everywhere. So
Yeah, especially out here, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we fix that problem.
Well, how do you do that?
So first we go out and do a free inspection and give people advice on what's going on in their crawl space.
Okay.
We take a lot of pictures, videos. We really like to position ourselves side by side with the homeowner and walk them through this educational experience about how was building science done back then. It's led to these issues that you have. These are the causes of these issues, and then it's 2022 now, so this is how building science has advanced, and this is the way to fix them. So during that process, kind of what your question is how do you fix them?
Right.
So we'll remove the fiberglass insulation that's in all the floors. That was never made to be in floors, but it's put down there every day. It's like a sponge, so it soaks up humidity and just puts it right next to the floor joists and the subfloor. So they just soak up all that water that's coming out of the air. So we remove that. We'll seal up all of the vents. We'll put in a temporary dehumidifier. We'll get the humidity below 60% and the moisture content of the wood below 20%. Then we'll come in with a soda blaster, which is like a sand blaster, but with baking soda, and we'll blast all the fungal growth away. This process removes the first layer of wood, like the first micro layer, like half a millimeter.
Okay.
Really restores the wood, makes it look new. You guys have all seen weathered wood, right?
Right.
Yes.
After the soda blasting, it looks brand.
It's like a sanding kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we remove the fungal growth. We come in with an antimicrobial after that, and we chemically treat everything to make sure the mold is extremely dead. And then we put on a latex barrier that we spray directly on the wood so the mold can't come back. It removes the organic material because we're putting rubber on the wood.
Wow.
So in the event of a hurricane, power outages, dehumidifier doesn't work, mold spores can't embed themselves in the wood because we put that barrier on. Once that's done, then we insulate the walls of the crawl space instead of the subfloor. That's because
What do you use for insulation on concrete?
we use a 2-inch termite-resistant foam board,
Okay.
kind of like styrofoam, but with some termite treatment on it. Something that you can't buy at Lowe's. It's pretty thick.
Okay.
It's not the like blue or purple stuff that you see walking down the insulation aisle.
All right. I've never heard of anybody doing that. That's why I asked. It's interesting.
Yeah. So there's 2 ways you can insulate the floors in a crawl space. One is the floors themselves, and you're supposed to do that if the vents are open, because the temperature is changing under the house because the vents are open. Diving actually is a good way to understand how air pressure in the crawl space affects your home.
Okay.
I'll tell you about that in just 1 second. So when you seal the vents off, the air isn't changing in the crawl space anymore. So the changing air is now outside, and the barrier is the wall. So you insulate the wall.
Okay, makes sense.
So the diving thing. Remember, like all the ambient pressure change and like
Yes.
the 1 atmosphere of pressure, 1 ATM. So that's happening in your crawl space.
Okay.
The entire atmosphere is pushing down, pushing air into your house. Your roof is made to vent hot air because you don't want mold growth up there.
Certainly.
So you have airflow, hot air coming out of your ridge vent or your gable vent. That pulls air from your living space into your attic.
Okay.
That pulls air from the crawl space into the living space. That ambient temperature, all the pressure coming into the crawl helps that airflow up. So when you live on a crawl, unless it's been encapsulated properly, 51% of the air in your house is coming from your crawl space.
Oh, wow. I did not know
I
that.
never heard of that before.
Yeah. That's frightening.
Yeah, because
Crawl spaces are nasty. Like, super nasty. You ever dove in a crawl space, Avery?
No.
No?
I've
you want
not.
to come?
No, I'll be honest that I don't.
Yeah, let me see what I got going on tomorrow.
They're not a pleasant place to spend time. I mean, they're not bad in July and August because it's always cooler in one of those than it is outside or in an attic or some other place that you could be. But they're gross, especially around here. I guess until you guys come along, right?
Right.
And then you could hang out down there.
Oh, yeah, you want to hang out down there.
So you stopped at insulating the walls.
Yep. So then we encapsulate. So we bring up a 12 mil single ply piece of poly. We start 3 inches from the sill plate. We come down over the foam board insulation. We come away from the walls 2 feet, and then we put down ground poly and we seam everything together. So you have one piece of plastic that is your crawl space when we're done.
Wow.
Okay.
That sounds like a super labor-intensive process.
It is.
I mean, you talked about removing insulation, setting up dehumidifiers, soda blasting, coating, all that stuff before you even get around to doing the actual encapsulation.
Yeah.
How long does something like that take?
About a week.
For one crawl space?
Yeah, it's longer and shorter. I forgot to mention, if there's a water problem in the crawl space, we'll dig a French drain on the inside of the crawl that goes around the perimeter. So right next to the footer, the entire length of the crawl space, and we'll put one sub pump every 140 feet.
That sounds like a ton of fun to try and dig a trench in an 18-inch high crawl space.
Yeah, it's very labor intensive.
Do you do this work yourself?
I have, yeah.
You have? So I'm sure you probably get these jokes a lot. I'm a small guy and you're a large guy. I have been in crawl spaces where I don't think you'd fit through the opening. How is it for you to try to work in a crawl space?
Well, we send the biggest guys in first because if I can get in, everyone can
just
get
to gauge
in.
gauge the okay, all right.
I mean, I'm crawling, so sometimes I'm like, think smaller thoughts, think skinny thoughts.
Think skinny thoughts.
But yeah, we got a 2 foot minimum. 2 foot crawl space minimum. Most people don't know what 2 feet is, though.
Okay. So you mean like the height of the crawl space?
Yeah.
You need to have at least 2 feet of space to go in and do any work. Okay. So if it's at that 18 inches you mentioned earlier, like not touching it.
We'll touch it. We have a low crawl up charge because it
takes longer. I'm sure.
It takes at least a third longer to do a crawl that's 18 inches.
Yeah.
Just think about like moving.
You go from hands and knees crawling to belly crawling, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can see that.
Some of these older houses, even here in Wilmington, they're definitely pushing that. I've seen some where the home inspector has to note that structural parts of the foundation or the wood forms are just on the ground, like contact with dirt. The only thing you could hope to squeeze in there is some type of camera lens, basically. You'd have to jack up the whole house.
Yeah, there's some tight ones out there.
Absolutely.
So, is there specialized equipment that you use to like help dig and stuff like that, or is it literally a guy in there with a hand troll digging these trenches and stuff?
We're pretty lucky here in Wilmington that most is sand or clay in some kind of mix. So yeah, we got small shovels, but we also have a Hilti tool with a shovel attachment. So it's like a mini jackhammer,
Oh,
kind
that's
of, but with
cool.
a shovel attachment. That's about probably 4x6.
So it's like attached to an air compressor? Or-
No, it's electric.
okay. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I have a question. What would you say is like the apple a day for the homeowner with the crawl space, right? Maintenance wise, the thing that you do to ward off significant issues beyond the routine maintenance that needs to occur.
Couple things. First, if you don't have an encapsulated crawl space, get the insulation out of your floors today. It is horrible for floors. You've probably seen this actually, Avery. If you're looking at a home inspection report on a house that was on a crawl and it was built post 1960, the crawl space is the lumber. You probably got a lot more structural issues because they started using new growth in white pine, that they were growing faster, so the wood was less dense and it decays a lot faster. Versus something that's downtown Wilmington, built in like 1905.
Correct.
And
You just think, how is this still standing?
That's it. That's how it's still.
it's old wood. It's hardwoods.
Because I've made that observation myself. Looked at houses and I'm like, there's no way this thing should even be here anymore. Like the crawl spaces you mentioned, where there's a gap, if there's a gap between, and it's wet,
Yes.
and it's like the wood is not dry, or the water or the ground is not dry. The wood's clearly not dry either, but it's still there. And then you go in a house that was built 20 years ago, and it's rotting. Literally, like you can poke a screwdriver right through a truss.
Yep.
That's the difference, huh?
But yeah, the apple a day thing is after a major doctor visit.
Makes sense.
If you're on a crawl space, it needs to be encapsulated. It needs to be dehumidified, and there needs to be an exhaust fan in it.
Okay. The insulation piece is some really good advice, though, because I do look at a lot of home inspections as a realtor, and you see it time and again, the insulation hanging, it's just turning gross, and you wonder how much it's actually doing for the home in the first place.
Is it doing anything?
No.
Okay.
As soon as it gets wet, it loses its R value. Fiberglass insulation has a 3 to 7 year life because it's going to get wet. It's going to rust out the hangers. It's going to fall.
So
you're much
the
better
stuff
off.
that's 30 years old in my crawl space is definitely not doing any good anymore.
When we're done here, go remove it.
That bad, huh?
No, I'm serious.
All right.
I've even seen spray foam where the joists are rotting inside the spray foam.
And the spray foam hides it.
That's why they
and you
use
have
it.
to remove all
Yeah,
the
I've
spray
seen it where
foam.
the sellers will go spray foam stuff just to hide the damage. Yep, I've seen that too.
But yeah, encapsulate your crawl space, and then we can talk about an apple a day.
Good to know. All right.
Yeah.
So you went from startup to $1 million in the first year. What's your team like? I mean, did you start? Did you go heavy into it and hire a bunch of people right out the gate? Like, I've got sales guys, I've got this thing, and just steamrolled it, or was it, man, I'm growing so quick, I got to add people? Like, how'd you do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. You can accomplish a lot more in life when you don't care who gets the credit. I think the military really enabled me to feel comfortable just delegating things. So one, I couldn't have done any of this without my business partner, Andrew Davis. We both have the perfect personality to complement each other. And yeah, we would not be anywhere where we are now without him. So having him is one reason we're here. The other, we hired 3 people to start, 2 technicians and then 1 sales guy. The sales guy, though, washed out on day 2 of training.
That's intense.
It was wow. Some longevity out of that guy. Huh?
So I picked up the sales torch.
Okay.
I ran us from April to July, I think. I was looking for somebody to hire, from from probably May to July, and it was just really tough to find a sales rep. Finally found one. Brought him on board in July, and gained an appreciation for sales professionals.
In what way? What do you mean by that?
Sales is done wrong. So many. I mean, you think of a salesman. What's the first image that comes to mind?
Some guy that knocks on my door in the middle of the afternoon and makes my dogs go crazy and angers my wife and wakes up the sleeping kid and everything else.
Not positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, think of a used car salesman.
Yeah, pushy, transactional.
Or a Verizon phone guy.
Yeah. Or any of the other brands, I guess, too. Right? Yeah.
So because sales is done wrong, most salesmen aren't what I want. We want winners on Crawlspace Ninja's team. We have a very thorough sales methodology that takes a lot of buy-in, and it takes a lot of perseverance. So we have a script that, when done poorly or with less enthusiasm, is really corned and canny, and it's really hard to break through the rote memorization to it just sounds like the person. So finding somebody that could emotionally understand that, and then had the perseverance to learn our methodology, and then once they had it, at a conscious competence level, fight through until it was an unconscious competence, and it just became part of them. It was really hard to find. I'm 4 for 1 right now.
Wow. Okay. But you found one. It was July.
No. I found one in July.
All right.
But he's one of the 3 that...
One of the washouts.
Yeah.
Another one of the washouts. Okay.
He's a great guy.
Okay.
He decided he didn't want to do sales. He's on our team still. He's in production.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you just found another place for him in the company. That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. Real cool. So
Yeah,
how many sales guys do you have now?
2.
Okay.
1 higher and then me.
Oh, okay. So you're still doing sales?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Right on. How big's your team overall now?
We got 13 on the team.
Wow. Okay.
That's excellent.
So you started with 2 and now you have 13. Wow. All employees. Wow.
Yeah, we have a branch manager, an office manager, a project manager, 2 teams, and a sales rep.
Very cool.
With the salesperson that transitioned to another role, right? I think there are a lot of folks who may have just ended up letting go of a person who'd otherwise be really capable of another role. What allowed you to recognize maybe this is not the best fit, but I think they would work really well in this capacity? One, and if you can get into it, how did you approach that, right? Because it can be a little awkward, like, you're kind of fired, but just from this, right? So those 2 things, I guess, are...
You've been promoted out of sales into production.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It's all about communication. We talked about this earlier. How things are presented matter, right?
So I'll say a couple things, again, pulling on my military time. If you have a standard and you hold somebody to the standard, but you do it in a way that's loving, they're never upset because you don't get mad at them for not meeting the bar. They're trying hard. If they are really a person of character, it's just not, it might be the right person, but they're in the wrong seat. So kind of that framework, and then just the fatherly coaching made them really want to be a part of our team. And I had a kid last year and got out of the military, so I didn't have the capacity to sell. So he really stepped up. And although his numbers weren't what they should have been, I'm indebted to him because of how he helped my family out, because he took the sales torch when it needed to be taken. So, but more directly, like, how do we get him into another seat? For any business owner out there, I highly recommend reading Traction by Gino Wickman.
Okay.
He's going to highlight a an entrepreneurial operating system is what he names it. Have you guys heard of the book?
Yep.
I have heard of the book.
Have you read it?
I have not read it.
Okay.
No.
So, just like Mac, Windows, Linux, they're all operating systems that you can access Safari or whatever internet browser from. The entrepreneurial operating system is this operating system that you can open a coffee shop, that you could be a realtor, that you could open a Crawlspace business, that you could open a financial firm. Like it's just this model of how to do things, not what to do, but how to do them. Mm-hmm. And they have a people model in there, and part of that is this people analyzer. And you take your core values, and then you have a bar, a standard for your core values. So he recommends having, I think, 3 to 7 core values. We have 5, and you rank people plus if they do it all the time, plus minus if they do a core value some of the time, and then minus if they don't do it at all. Mm-hmm. So I'd sit down with this guy and say, hey, this is the bar, and these are your goals, and how do you think you're doing right now? And he was honest, and I was honest. And because he wanted to learn how to be a sales rep, and he was really putting in the effort, there was never we got to get rid of you right now, because I'm doing this to develop people, to be honest.
It never became confrontational.
No.
Right. Okay.
And because he was giving it, a good college try, I was just working with him. I'd go on ride-alongs with him. He'd screw up a sale. I knew we needed revenue, so I'd pick it up. I'd make the sale. We'd talk about, you were doing this. Did you see the result? He was like, yeah, I'm glad you jumped in. It's like, yep. This is what you were doing, and that's the outcome you get. This is what you need to do, and this is the outcome you'll get. Mm-hmm. And then by just holding him accountable, once he had the opportunity to get out, because I hired 2 more sales reps, he came to me and said, Schuyler, I really love the company. I really want to stay with you guys. Sales just isn't working out for me. I don't like it. Can I do something else?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he initiated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did you become so good at sales? Was it part of the training that you received from the franchisor, or was it something that was already in your background?
I'm searching for a quote. I had to.
Okay. But not everybody that has to do a thing is able to pull it off. But you were.
I don't know. I was an athlete, so I'm very coachable. One of my philosophies of life is everything you want, somebody else has done. So don't figure out how to do it yourself. Just go ask for help and shut up and listen. So I just reached out, found people that were good at selling, bought into the sales methodology that we have at Crawlspace Ninja that our franchisor provided, and just learned it and then executed. I wasn't very good in the beginning. It took me, so I started selling in April, May. I sold, May was the first month that I annualized $1 million. So I sold like $84,000 my 3rd month. It was over the moon.
Yeah, of course you should have been, right? Yeah. I mean, you just opened.
A guy that we just brought on board finished training in February, and in March he sold $134,000.
Wow,
that's excellent.
Yeah,
good for him, and you.
Yeah. So the how, I just listened and applied. I've never been very good at anything when I first start. I just got more willpower than everybody else, and we'll make sure I'll stay up as late as I need to. I'll wake up as early as I have to.
Okay.
I've just like in the military, people are dependent upon you. I now got, if our organization doesn't sell, 12 families don't eat. Mm-hmm. So I'd say out of necessity.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
With that, this came up earlier. So you mentioned that you'd been in for 11 years. Mm-hmm. Right, and I got out at 12 years. The difference being I didn't have a family. Right, I see a lot of folks transitioning and they have people depending on them. So one, what are some of the considerations you took with ensuring that you were preparing as best you could for that transition to be capable of looking after your family? And what are some things someone else in that same position or a year behind you could be thinking of discussing with their spouse, preparing to do, that's looking at taking similar steps?
Start saving.
It seems like a good idea.
Yeah. Have a rainy day fund. Do everything you can to get on a Skill Bridge or Soft Care Coalition program. Just a wonderful opportunity to figure out what you're going to do, and if you're going to open a business or do something that's a little more entrepreneurial, you got a little runway to get it going. So I was blessed to have that opportunity. Just have a plan and work your plan.
Okay.
Start saving right now. Call Avery if you need to buy an investment property. Start doing that right now.
Yes.
Yep.
That helped.
And then call you to have it managed.
Correct.
Right. And it's Cedar Ridge.
Yeah, Cedar Ridge Management.
Okay. Yeah. We spent most time talking about Crawlspace Ninjas. We didn't really get to that. Hit that up for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I started investing in 2010 in real estate. Started self-managing in 2017. I should say my wife started managing our portfolio in 2017 and managing our local stuff without a manager, and she's just really good at it. My friends were then like, Schuyler, can you help me out? I was like, no, but maybe my wife can. I mean, I love real estate. I love property management. It just kind of grew organically. We don't have a website. We don't market. We just give phenomenal service, and I'm building a company to take care of my portfolio. So if every property isn't taken care of right, then I know my property is not going to be taken care of right. And that's enabled us. We went from 7 properties in January of 2021. We finished the year out at 45. We're at 60 as of right now.
Nice.
That's excellent.
Tremendous growth.
So, yeah, if you have questions about real estate investing, hit me up. I love to. I don't know everything, but I'll share with you all my bumps and bruises, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know Sean
McDonald?
Yeah. Do you ever go to any of his Pints and Properties events or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're actually in a mastermind group. We meet every Monday morning at 7:30 together.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Could we talk about just kind of business ownership and investing at large?
Yeah, talk about whatever you want. What's on your mind?
I don't know. How many of these listeners are thinking about being a business owner?
Probably a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like for you when you started out, and why did you choose that route versus choosing the employee route?
It was the exact same reason you gave. I think that, I read the same books. I read all of the Rich Dad books and everything too, but there was a moment of clarity that hit me when I was a staff sergeant in MARSOC, and I went to the career course, which I had avoided for as long as I possibly could. But eventually I found myself there, and you're there with all other staff sergeants from all over the Marine Corps, because it's a peer group course. And I had a cat sitting behind me that had been in the Marine Corps the same amount of years as me, and obviously was the same rank as me, and which meant he was getting the same paycheck as me, because you're paid by time and grade and your rank. However, we'd been at war in 2 theaters the entire time, and this dude had never deployed once in his entire time he'd been in the Marine Corps. And furthermore, he was on the base football team. He never missed a 96 or a kid's birthday or anything like that. And it really hit me. I'm like, I'm never home, ever. Like, I rarely would have 2 weeks of pillow time in my own house in a row. And I was providing the same quality of life for my family as this guy was, except I wasn't there for any of it. And so that kind of really hit me, like the military pay scale. I'm like, this just doesn't add up. Like the amount of effort I have to put in to be a Raider, the op tempo, the schools, the training, the deployments, all of that for the same paycheck that this other guy has that he never misses anything for. Like, it's not fair to my wife and kid to have the same kind of lifestyle that he's providing, except they never have me there, and they wonder if I'm coming back from half the stuff I go do, even if it's an afternoon jump over at Pheasant, right? Like, there's no guarantee you're coming back from that, especially jumping around shoot, which is what I did. But
especially depending on who the JM is.
yeah, you talked about water temperatures, 51 degrees or 49. What's the cutoff for wind speed for a round shoot before they cancel jumps?
I kind of have it
15
mixed
knots?
in now because of free
15.
fall.
Might be 15 knots, right? But wind speed was always 14 knots.
I'm sure it was always 14.
Always. It didn't matter, right? Dude, it's never 14 knots on the coast. It's always like 30, right? But every time we jumped, it was, hey, it's 14, we're good. Everybody getting the bird, right? Like, I always looked like Wile E. Coyote when I hit the ground. I created my own little mushroom cloud every time.
Well, also, they're just measuring it on the ground. It's definitely way higher at altitude.
Yeah. But so that kind of planted a seed in the back of my mind. This was years before I decided to get out. Like, this isn't right, and it kind of bothered me. And so when I did transition, I didn't transition for those reasons. It was a family thing. It was, I got back from what ended up being my final deployment to Afghanistan, and my daughter, who was 7 months old when I deployed, was now a little walking, talking person who had no idea who I was. And me and my wife were like, that's enough. We'll figure something else out. So when we looked at what's the something else going to be, I had that frame of reference in my mind was, I don't want to be that guy that has to give, and then the return, it doesn't matter how much you give, the return's the same.
Yeah.
And the only place I found that it wasn't going to be like that was in business, where my success is up to how much I want to put into it and how clever I can be. And so that was really appealing to me early on. I mean, there's other avenues, like you guys got into real estate investing and things like that. That just, at that point in my life, it wasn't really that appealing to me. There was a lot I didn't know, and I wasn't interested in learning about it. And there was a lot of misunderstandings I had about it at the time. So business was just something that I was kind of drawn to for the same reasons you stated.
Yeah, the return on time is something I did. I was like, I'm at 11 years. I could put 9 years more in. I could put, probably on average 60 hours a week when I'm home. Plus,
if you can get it down to that.
Right? Plus deployments, DFTs, and I'm going to get a pension that's going to, bring me $4,500 a month for the rest of my life. Or
if you make it to the end of it.
Right? Or I could build businesses and invest a little bit more aggressively in real estate and build generational wealth with less time put in. Just the return on time.
Without the DFTs, without the deployments, be present for your family. Like you made a comment earlier, we kind of harassed you a little bit. Hey, we haven't seen you at the VBC in a while. And you're like, yeah, I have a 15-month-old. I'm at home with my kid. You can make that call. Whereas when you were in, you didn't get to make that call. It didn't matter if you had 3 15-month-olds at home. It was, guess what? We need you on base. You're going to be working. So, yeah, man, I get it. And it's the same thing that kind of pushed me in that direction. I don't know if everybody that's transitioning has that moment where that's something that goes through their mind. I know a lot of the folks I talk to, the immediate need that goes through their mind is, man, especially if they're not retiring. Like the three of us didn't retire. We just walked away. Right? That's completely different because now you're sitting there going, where's healthcare coming from?
Oh.
Where's the paycheck coming from? What do you mean no housing allowance? How's the mortgage getting paid, right? Like there's some instant changes that are pretty tough to get over. So I think a lot of folks have to, that immediate need of cash flow is number one. And it really doesn't matter where it comes from at first. You just need to satisfy that need before you even think about anything else.
To that, I'm sure you guys would be open to it. If anybody's listening that's thinking of getting out in the next year, I don't know. I can leave you my contact info, but hit me up and I can get you approved for one of my companies on SkillBridge or Soft Care Coalition.
That'd be excellent.
And we can do some business mentorship, and you don't actually have to crawl under houses or manage properties.
But they should.
Exactly.
It builds
Character. Yeah. We all love the character building courses.
character.
But yeah, I'd be more than happy to give you a 6-month roadmap of us just talking and you, quote unquote, working for one of my companies, so you can have that time and space to figure out what you're doing.
That's fantastic, man. I'm glad you brought that up. We've got another VBC member that just started doing that. John Panichone with Full of Capital.
Okay.
Has two, one Raider and the other guy's a Army soft dude. Just started a Skills Bridge with him here in Wilmington, and he's also arranged like ride-along days. So like one of his guys that's on a Skills Bridge with him could come hang out with you for a day or a week or whatever and just see what a day in the life is like, from somebody that owns a service-based business that maybe is considering it or is not, hadn't thought about it. Just another, like you said, another exposure to something different. So that's awesome that you're willing to do that. I'm sure there's a lot of guys and gals that would take you up on that.
I hope so, because I couldn't have done what I did without SkillBridge. It's a beautiful 6 months.
Are you certified already or registered already as a Skills Bridge?
For Soft Care Coalition,
okay,
that's easier. I'm not going to pull the SkillBridge card until somebody wants to, because you can get a one-off exception pretty quickly. I don't know if you're aware of the process. Yeah. So you can get like a by exception thing done, and then if something built, I'd get it official forever.
Okay. Well, if you're not already, sounds like we should probably have them talk to Lindsay, so she can make that known with the cohorts that we've got another local option for them.
Yeah.
At THF. Did you do THF?
I did not.
Okay.
I had too many fires in the.
No, I get it. I didn't exist when I did it, but we just talked about that with Lindsay Cashin on her podcast, was setting up Skills Bridge and that sort of thing. So she'll be thrilled to hear that there's somebody else local here that's willing to do that for fellows. That'd be great.
I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely need to hook that up. Well, unfortunately, we're about out of time. I'm sure TK is about ready to pull the plug on all of our equipment because we're keeping them past quitting time today. Appreciate it, TK. Thanks, buddy. We're good. But before we do pull the plug, a couple final things. We always like to ask every guest, do you have any sage advice, words of wisdom that you want to just leave on the table for listeners? It can be business ownership. It could be whatever we talked about during the podcast, or just anything that Schuyler feels passionate about.
I got a couple things.
Lay them on us.
So first one, I don't know how sage this is, but most people spend their entire life walking around the pool, dipping their toe in to see what is the temperature and thinking about when the perfect time to jump in is. This comes to real estate investing, business ownership, getting out of the Marine Corps. Just jump in and figure it out.
Hell yeah. I like that one. I have a business card that I made, like a personal contact card that's not tied to one of my businesses, just like one of those times when you want someone to have your personal email instead of the office. And I had on the back, you got to have something on it. I had on the back, it was along those lines. It was do what you can with what you have right now. Instead of continuously finding reasons to kick the can down the road for a better opportunity or more resources or something else. But just take action, do something, right? The way I always looked at it, like you said, is at the very least, you'll find out that you don't like it. Then you can cross it off your list, right? You can move on to something else. So that's awesome, man. I like that one.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say, men establish their steps, but the Lord really makes things happen. So that got to give everything to God that I have. And then another I read Proverbs every day. With many advisors, your plans will succeed. So like if you're going to do something, reach out to somebody and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, and get input. Because you will be successful if you do that. If you try to do everything alone, I hired a bunch of people when I started because I knew I couldn't do it myself. You got to be comfortable delegating things. And then, what did you just say about do what you have?
Do what you can with what you have right now.
Because at least you'll figure out if you can check it off your list because you don't like it.
At the very least, you'll decide it's not for you.
Yeah. So I get goosebumps to this day reading this quote. So I just hope this sticks with everybody. Everybody's heard it. Teddy Roosevelt, it's not the critic who counts.
That's excellent. I'm actually going to get that tattooed on me.
Yeah?
It's going to happen. The artist is hard to reach. Please read.
We can go downstairs right after this.
Yeah.
Well, I already picked an artist.
Okay.
They're not downstairs.
I was going to say, I can write in cursive.
You can have him do it.
But yeah, it's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. No. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and by sweat and by blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, guys, just jump, do it, reach out to a friend. We're all willing to help you out. Fortune favors the bold, and just take action. You said a book too, right?
Well, you mentioned traction earlier, right?
Yeah.
Did you have something else in mind?
Yeah, so just kind of thinking of this audience, I'd say the most impactful book for me in the last 2 years has been Retire Young, Retire Rich by Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay, I definitely like the sound of that and what that might imply.
So,
and I thought I'd read all his books, but he seems to just keep plugging away, huh?
He does.
Okay.
This is a good one because if you come from a very humble family, my dad was a self-employed cabinet maker, and my mom was a school teacher in Arizona, so we didn't have a lot. And monetary things aside, the framework you get when you grow up with parents that are employees doesn't help you have the confidence to build a business. Mm-hmm. So Robert Kiyosaki in this book talks about two things mainly: content and context. If your context, think of context as a cup or a bowl. It can only hold so much content. Mm-hmm. But if you expand your context, you can hold a lot more content. So do everything you can to expand your context, and the content will come. And this book, Retire Young, Retire Rich, I've listened to 7 times now, because it is that reinforcing mechanism in me that's rewiring how I think about things, so I can help more people out and build generational wealth for my family. And just, if you're reading this book and you want to take care of your family now and your kids, read that book and do it.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought I'd read everything by him. I hadn't even heard of that one yet, so I'll have to check it out. 7 times, you've got my attention.
Yeah.
If you've read it 7 times, you've definitely got my attention. I'm gonna take a look at it, and I hope our listeners do as well. Schuyler, it's been awesome having you here today. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got the little one at home, but I do hope that we can see you at the VBC every now and again.
Yeah, I moved to Surf City or Hampstead, so I'm a little closer now.
Okay,
We'll make
awesome.
it happen soon.
We've got some folks that are working
Nice.
on Jacksonville as well.
Okay.
They had their first meeting last month. I think Avery, you went to that, right?
I did. I was able to go to it briefly. Absolutely.
Trying to expand out as far as that goes. It was really cool to get to hear about your journey from active duty raider to empire builder here in the Wilmington area in what really amounts to an incredibly short period of time when you think about businesses. And I think what you've done with both of your businesses, we talk to a lot of people on this show, but what you've done in the amount of time you've done it is definitely the exception and not the norm. To go with those types of numbers and that type of growth in such a short period of time. So clearly, you know what you're doing. You've got something figured out. And anybody who is thinking about doing a skills bridge in this area and heard about this and doesn't take you up on it is crazy. They absolutely should. It's not every day that you hear about a success story like this. And to pass an opportunity to learn from you would be straight foolish. So I hope that you can get a couple jarheads to follow you around the field and learn how to be successul.
Be good. I wear a war belt when I go into crawl spaces.
Yes.
I got a leg rig.
Not a web belt. But final. Avery's like, what?
I thought of the image and I was like, that's a terrible choice.
Last thing, if anybody is interested in contacting you about a skills bridge, a job opportunity, or they want the mold out of their crawl space, man, or they need a property managed, how do they get in touch with Schuyler Witt, Crawlspace Ninjas, or Cedar Ridge Property Management?
Yeah, just I'll give you my personal cell right now. Give me a call at 520-236-6596. Or shoot me an email at schuylerwitt@gmail.com. That's a Sierra Charlie Hotel Uniform Yankee Lima Echo Romeo Whiskey India Tango @gmail.com.
Awesome. And I'm sure your businesses, well, except Cedar Ridge, you said you do zero marketing, but Crawlspace Ninjas, I see your signs all over town, so I'm sure you have social media presence. People can find you that way for that as well, right?
Yeah, if you just Google crawlspaceninja.com or just Crawlspace Ninja, you'll find me if you click on any Wilmington link.
Awesome. Well, it's been a lot of fun, man. Thanks for coming on and sharing your journey, your story with us. It was really cool to hear about it. And
thank you.
Best of luck to you, man.
Likewise.
Cool.
Thanks for checking out the VBC podcast.